You were not broke. That is the part nobody talks about. You had a salary, a real one, the kind that felt like proof you had figured something out. $60,000 a year, more than your parents ever made, more than you ever imagined having at 22. And for 10 years, that money came in. Every 2 weeks, reliable as clockwork. $60,000 a year for 10 years is $600,000. $600,000 passed through your hands. And the day the email arrived telling you your position had been eliminated, you opened your accounts expecting a cushion. What you found instead changed everything you thought you knew about yourself and money. This is that story, and the number you are about to see is going to make you look at your next paycheck very differently. The version of you that just got the job. You are 24. You just got the offer, $60,000 a year. You read the number 3 times because it does not feel real. You call someone who matters to you and say the number out loud just to hear how it sounds. It sounds like freedom. It sounds like every financial worry you ever had dissolving at once. You move into a better apartment. Not extravagant, just better. The kind with in-unit laundry and a dishwasher and a gym you use for 3 months, then forget about. You buy a car that matches the salary. Not a luxury car, just a car that feels like the version of yourself you are becoming. You go out more. Better restaurants, better clothes, better everything. Because you have a better salary now. And somehow, in the back of your mind, you assume the better salary is automatically building a better future. It was not, but you would not discover that for 10 years. The raise that changed nothing. Year 3 arrives. You get a raise, $68,000. You feel the familiar feeling of proof. Proof you are moving in the right direction. Proof the work is being recognized. Proof things are getting better. And they were getting better. Just not in the way that compounds. Because the raise arrived, and within 6 months, the lifestyle adjusted to meet it. Better apartment, higher car payment, more subscriptions, more dining, more everything. The raise disappeared into the cost of living the raise created. You told yourself you would start saving seriously when you hit $75,000. Year 5 arrived, $74,000. Close enough. But somehow the saving never started. There was always something. A vacation that felt earned. A medical bill that was unexpected. A month that simply cost more than the others. The money came in. The money went out. And the distance between the two was never as wide as you assumed it was. 10 years of looking productive. Here is what 10 years of $60,000 plus raises looks like from the outside. A nice apartment, a reliable car, good clothes, a full social life, vacations every year, the appearance of someone who has it together. Here is what it looked like from the inside. A checking account that hovered between $800 and $2,400, depending on the time of month. A savings account with $3,200 in it that had been sitting there for 4 years untouched because touching it felt like failure. A 401k with $11,000 in it because you only contributed enough to get the employer match and never thought about it again. No investment account. No emergency fund worth the name. No system. Just income arriving and income disappearing, and the quiet assumption that this was simply how money worked for people like you. You are not irresponsible. You are not reckless. You are simply living without a system. And the absence of a system is invisible until the moment it is not. The email nobody plans for. The email arrived on a Tuesday. They always arrive on a Tuesday. Subject line, important update regarding your position. You read it twice. Your role has been eliminated effective immediately as part of a company-wide restructuring. You will receive 60 days severance. 60 days. You opened your accounts. Checking $1,847. Savings $3,200. 401k $11,000. But touching it meant penalties. Total accessible money $5,047. 10 years, $600,000 through your hands. $5,047 to show for it. You sat with that number for a long time, not in anger, not in tears, just in the specific quiet devastation of a person doing math that does not add up. $600,000 in, $5,047 remaining. The rest was not stolen. Nobody took it. It simply passed through your life the way water passes through open hands, gone before you ever decided what to do with it. The question that changed everything. The severance gave you 60 days. 60 days to find a new job, or 60 days to finally answer the question you had been avoiding for a decade. Where did $600,000 go? You sat down with a notebook. You wrote down every category of spending you could remember over 10 years. Rent and housing, cars and transport, food and dining, clothes and appearance, subscriptions and entertainment, vacations, random purchases you could no longer name. You added it all up. The numbers made sense. Every dollar was accounted for. But none of them were working. None of them had grown. None of them were going to feed you at 65. You had spent 10 years exchanging time for money, and then exchanging money for experiences and things that left no financial trace. And then you asked yourself the question that changed everything. What if even 20% of that $600,000 had been invested? $120,000 invested over 10 years at 10% average return. You typed it into the calculator. The calculator returned $207,000. You stared at that number. $207,000, built from 20 cents of every dollar you earned. Money you never would have missed. Money that felt too small to matter. Money that would have meant everything on the day the email arrived. The system that should have been there. You got a new job. $72,000. And this time something was different. Not the salary, not the company, not the industry, the system. Day one of the new job, you sat down and did something you had never done before. You decided where every dollar was going before it arrived. 20% to investments, automatic transfer the day the paycheck landed. 10% to a real emergency fund. 6 months of expenses, not $3,200. 10% to a separate savings account for planned expenses. 60% to live on. Not perfectly, not without adjustment, but with intention for the first time in your working life. The lifestyle did not collapse. It adjusted, and within 6 months, the automatic investment transfer felt as unremarkable as rent. Just another bill. Except this one was being paid to your future self. $600,000 passed through your hands. Not because you were irresponsible, not because you were reckless, because you had income without a system. And income without a system will always find a way to disappear. The math is not complicated. 20 cents of every dollar. Invested automatically. From the very first paycheck, $60,000 a year for 10 years, 20% invested, at historical average returns, would have become $207,000 by the time the email arrived. $207,000 does not make a layoff comfortable, but it makes it survivable. And survival is what gives you the time to build something better. You still have a salary. Maybe it is $60,000. Maybe it is more. Maybe it is less. But the question is the same regardless of the number. Does your money have a system? Or is it passing through open hands, because $600,000 sounds like a lot, until you realize it already passed through yours, and you are still counting what is left. Subscribe to Finance with Dre because next week we are talking about the car payment and the exact number most people never calculate when they drive off that lot. That number is going to hurt, but it is going to hurt in the way that changes behavior. See you then.